Living past the age of 61 can be a real gift. It is a time in life when, with a little wisdom and reflection, we can get rid of so many things that are no longer necessary. Often we spend a good part of our lives accumulating worries, commitments, and even objects that in the end do not bring us the happiness we had hoped for. It is as if we are carrying too much baggage. And now more than ever, it is time to let go of that baggage. Take that weight off our shoulders and live more lightly. Because life is too short to hold on to it, worrying about what doesn't matter. The truth is that we don't need so much to be happy. As time goes by, we realize that true happiness lies in the simple things, the ones that don't always require a lot of effort or sacrifice. We no longer need to follow the expectations that others have of us or try to be who we are not. We can finally allow ourselves to be who we are, without masks, without obligations, and that is liberating. This is a time in life that invites us to stop looking outwards and start looking inwards. What really matters is that with these questions, we can begin to let go of everything that no longer serves us, and in doing so, we can live with more serenity, more joy, more abundance, because life does not have to be complicated. It does not have to be full of demands and pressures. It is possible to live more easily, more simply, without so many strings attached, and that is what we are going to talk about today. We are going to explore those things that you no longer need to carry around. After the age of 61, there are 9. So let's go on this journey of liberation and reconnection with what really matters. The first one is excessive concern for what other people think. There comes a time when we realize that living to worry about what other people think is too heavy a burden to carry. We spend so much of our lives trying to please, trying to live up to the expectations of everyone around us. When we are younger, perhaps it's part of the search for acceptance, for belonging. But after the age of 61, we already know who we are and what we want, and the opinions of others lose their importance, because life teaches us that everyone sees the world through their own lens, and there is no point in trying to change who we are to please everyone. It only distances us from our own and prevents us from being fully happy at this point in our lives. True freedom comes from within. It's when we let go of worrying about other people's judgment and allow ourselves to be authentic, to live according to what we believe and feel. Who better than ourselves to know what makes us feel good? No more conforming to other people's expectations, letting them think what they want. The most important thing is to be at peace with your own choices, to feel that you are living according to your values and principles. That is the real victory, which does not depend on anyone's approval. From the moment we free ourselves from this worry, life becomes easier. Other people's opinions may still exist, but they no longer have the power to influence us. We let go of them. We let go of the fear of being misunderstood, of being criticized, because we understand that the only person to whom we owe satisfaction is ourselves. And this freedom to be without fear or guilt is one of the most precious gifts we can give ourselves at this stage of life. The second thing is the accumulation of objects and material goods as the years go by. We realize that the accumulation of material goods is not synonymous with happiness. It's as if each object carries a little piece of our past, and sometimes it seems difficult to let go. But the truth is that when we let go of what no longer serves us, we make room for the new, for what is really important. We don't need so many things to live well. Sometimes less is more, and this less brings with it a part that is difficult to explain, but deeply felt. Starting to get rid of what no longer serves us is an act of courage and self-love. It means looking at everything we have accumulated and asking, does this still make me happy? Does it still have a purpose in my life? If the answer is no, perhaps it's time to let go, and in doing so we find that our home, our mind and our heart become lighter. Fewer things to look after, fewer things to tidy, fewer things to worry about. The focus stops being on the material and starts being on what really has value, the experiences, the moments shared with those we love, the memories that remain by. Letting go of what is unnecessary, we learn to value what is. It's not about what we have, it's about what we are. And in simplicity, we find a way of living that brings more peace, more contentment. After all, life is not measured by what we accumulate, but by how much we manage to enjoy and live each moment fully and consciously. Letting go of material possessions is actually an act and an exercise in freedom, in lightness, in leaving behind the weight of excess and walking more freely and happily. How many times have we found ourselves reluctantly going to a social event just because it would be rude to refuse, or accepting invitations out of sheer formality, even though we knew we wouldn't feel comfortable there? But after the age of 61, it's time to rethink what's really worth doing. It's time to realize that we no longer need to participate in anything just out of obligation. It's time to give ourselves permission to say no to what drains our energy, to what we do out of obligation. We no longer need to be present everywhere. We don't need to justify our absences. We don't need to sacrifice ourselves. To please others, we should choose to be where our heart feels good, where our presence is truly valued, and this freedom of choice is a privilege, an achievement that we should enjoy without guilt. By saying no to what is not good for us, we are saying yes to ourselves, to our peace and well-being. Being doesn't mean isolating ourselves or stopping socializing. It means choosing wisely where and with whom we want to be, prioritizing the moments that are truly meaningful, that bring joy, that add something positive to our lives. And by doing this, every meeting, every event, every moment becomes more special because we are there, body and soul, truly present without the weight of obligation. This is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves, the freedom to choose how and with whom we spend our time. And this makes all the difference to the quality of our lives. The fourth is an excessive preoccupation with physical appearance. Throughout our lives, we are constantly bombarded with standards of beauty and youth that make us believe we must always be flawless, fighting time, wrinkles, the natural signs of aging. But there comes a time when we realize that true beauty is not in the appearance, but in the story that each mark, each wrinkle, each feature of our face carries. After the age of 61, we have lived so much, experienced so much, that it would be unfair to try to hide or erase the marks that tell us who we are. We no longer need to worry so much about our appearance. Of course, it is important to take care of our health, stay active, and feel good, but that is all. The most important thing is to feel comfortable in our own skin, to accept and love the body we have with all its changes, because these changes are part of life. They are part of us. Every wrinkle tells a story. Every line on the face reflects a smile, an expression, a moment lived intensely. True beauty lies in authenticity, in the ability to accept and love ourselves as we are. It lies in the ease of not having to prove anything to anyone, of feeling good just the way you are, of not having to waste energy trying to fit into standards that don't represent us. Yes, we can take care of ourselves, but with love, with affection, with respect for who we are today. Acceptance is liberating. It allows us to live more peacefully, more happily, more fully, and that is true beauty. The beauty of being exactly who we are without fear, without shame, without guilt. Activities that don't bring satisfaction are the fifth thing. How often have we found ourselves doing something just out of habit or because we thought it had to be done, even though we knew it wasn't bringing us any joy for many years? After the age of 61, we have the opportunity to look at these activities with fresh eyes and ask ourselves, does this still make me happy? Does it still fulfill me? If the answer is no, then perhaps it is time to rethink these choices and leave behind what no longer brings satisfaction. Life is too short to waste our time on things that don't bring a smile, that don't warm the heart. There's no need. It is time to rediscover the joy in the small things, to find new passions, to explore hobbies and interests that we may have put aside over the years. It is time to let go of the idea that this is just the way things are, and to look for what really brings us happiness and fulfillment. This can mean many things. It can mean giving up habits that no longer make sense, stopping going to places we don't like, or even learning something new, rediscovering old talents, or simply spending more time with the people we love. The important thing is to live in such a way that each day brings meaning and purpose, even if it's in the little things, because true satisfaction comes from living each moment with intention, with will, with joy, and there's no better time to do that than right now. There is no reason to waste time on what is not good. What really matters is to find what makes us get out of bed with joy, with the will to enjoy each day, to live with intensity. Sixth, negative toxic relationships. Sometimes we get so used to certain relationships that we don't even realize how much they are hurting us. We spend years maintaining contact, living with people who, instead of adding to us, only take away our peace and energy. It could be a friend who always brings negativity, a family member who always criticizes, or anyone who makes us feel bad or undervalued. Keeping these ties, however long they may have lasted, is not an obligation. It's a weight we no longer need to carry. After the age of 61, it's time to choose wisely the companies we want to keep in our lives. Walking away from toxic relationships is not selfish. It's an act of self-care. The most important thing at this stage of life is to be surrounded by people who support us, who do us good, who value who we are. There is no room for those who only criticize, for those who only bring problems, for those who don't respect or understand us. We don't have an obligation to please everyone, to maintain relationships only out of convention or out of fear of disappointing someone. The most important thing is to maintain our own peace, our own balance, and when we allow ourselves to let go of those relationships that no longer make sense, we make room. When we allow ourselves to let go of those relationships that no longer make sense, we make room for new people to come into our lives. People who really care, who share our values, who bring lightness, joy, and accept us for who we are. Because life is too short to waste time with people who don't do us any good. To surround ourselves with good company, with those who really make a difference, with those who walk alongside us with affection and respect. That makes all the difference, and that is what is worthy of our time and attention. The rest we can leave behind without guilt, without regret, with the certainty that we are taking care of ourselves. One of the most common pitfalls in life is the temptation to compare our journey with that of others from a young age. We are exposed to expectations and standards of success that often make us question our own choices and achievements. We look around, and it seems that there is always someone who has done more, who is more, who lives in a way that we think is better than ours. But as time goes by, we realize that these comparisons are just that, comparisons. Everyone has their own path, their own battles, their own joys and sorrows. And at 61, we've lived long enough to know that there is no one right way to live. Constantly comparing ourselves to the lives of others only distances us from our own values, our own achievements, and makes us forget everything we've already overcome, everything we've already achieved, the unique and special moments that are ours alone. Because success and happiness don't have a ready-made formula. Each of us is unique, with our own needs, desires, and limitations, and it is this uniqueness that we should celebrate. Not try to fit into a pattern that does not belong to us. Each of our lives is made up of choices, and each choice takes us to a different place. To compare ourselves is to forget that each choice has its value, that each path has its beauty. This is the moment to leave behind the habit of measuring ourselves by others, to stop looking away and to start looking inwards, with more affection, with more respect for all that we have already lived and built, because each of us has our own story, our own journey, and it is just as valid and just as beautiful as anyone else's. We don't need to compare ourselves anymore. What we need is to recognize and value our own journey, our own way of living, with all its imperfections, with all its challenges, with all its achievements. When we recognize and value our own journey, our own way of living, with all its imperfections, with all its challenges, with all its achievements. The eighth thing is unattainable or irrelevant goals. Over the years, we have learned to set goals and objectives, to chase after dreams and desires that often weren't really ours. Perhaps they were expectations from society, from our family, or even from ourselves at a time when we were still trying to find out what we really wanted. But as time went by, we realized that not all of these goals were essential. Some actually became a burden, something we continued to pursue out of sheer stubbornness, even though they no longer made sense. And now, after 61 years, it is time to look at these goals and decide what is really worthwhile. There is no longer any reason to continue to pursue something that doesn't bring fulfillment, that doesn't arouse passion when there are goals that seem unattainable. If there are goals that seem unattainable, that no longer have the same meaning as before, there is no problem in letting go. This is not giving up. It is choosing wisely where we want to put our energy, our time, and our heart. Often insisting on goals that no longer make sense only brings us frustration. makes us feel like we have failed, but in fact the wisdom lies in recognizing the moment to change, to adapt our expectations to the reality of who we are and what we want. What we want today, what matters now, is to set goals that will bring us real happiness and satisfaction. Goals that make our hearts beat faster, that are in line with our values, our current desires. It could be something as simple as spending more time with our family, learning something new, or just taking better care of ourselves. The important thing is that these goals are meaningful, that they have a real purpose in our lives, because at the end of the day, it is not about what we want. At the end of the day, it's not about what we achieve, it's about how we live, how we enjoy each moment, and living in peace, in harmony with our choices, is the greatest goal we can have. The number 9 is responsible for putting our own happiness first. How many times in our lives have we put the needs of others before our own? We end up forgetting ourselves in the process, putting aside our own dreams and desires in order to meet the expectations of others. And so we accumulate a kind of guilt every time we think of doing something for ourselves, as if we don't have the right. But after the age of 61, it is time to leave this guilt behind and finally allow ourselves to prioritize our own happiness. We've already given so much of our time and energy to others. We've been so many things to so many people. Now it's time to look inside and ask ourselves, what makes me happy? What do I really want for myself? Without fear of appearing selfish, without fear of disappointing, because we cannot give others what we don't have. To take care of those we love, we need to be well. We need to be happy and fulfilled. And that only happens when we have the courage to put ourselves first. It is to realize that there is nothing wrong with wanting to be happy, with wanting to do what is good for us, because life belongs to us. No one can live for us. No one can feel for us. And if we don't take care of our own happiness, who will? We need to think of ourselves without guilt, without fear. And that doesn't mean to stop caring about others, but to find a healthy balance between caring for those we love and caring for ourselves is an act of self-love. Love, respect for our own history, for our own dreams. So if there is something that you have always wanted to do but never had the courage to do, now is the time. If there is a desire, a plan, an idea that has been lying dormant, now is the time to bring it to the surface without guilt, without fear, because being truly happy is the best gift we can give ourselves. And when we feel good, it reflects on everything around us. So let's leave everything around us. Life after 61 offers us a unique opportunity to live more authentically, to leave behind everything that no longer serves us, to focus on what really matters, to stop worrying so much about other people's opinions, to stop accumulating meaningless material possessions, and to start living more lightly, more joyfully, with more truth, because this is the life we deserve, now more than ever. We don't need to accumulate meaningless material possessions or participate in unnecessary social obligations. We don't need to worry so much about our physical appearance. We don't need to insist on activities that don't bring us satisfaction or maintain toxic relationships. Comparing our lives to others is a waste of energy, and pursuing unattainable or irrelevant goals only takes us further away from happiness and beyond. We don't need to feel guilty about putting our own happiness first. By leaving these things behind, we can live more easily, more consciously, more fully. It's a moment of liberation, of rediscovery, of reconnecting with what really makes sense to us, because that's what life is all about. Choosing what's good for us, choosing to be happy, choosing to live more truthfully, and that's exactly what we deserve now and always.